Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. Lucky Strike's blowing smoke rings at you from the studios of Comfortably Zoned Radio, and it's time for Dodgers baseball, a tale of two cities, from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. I'm your host, Peter Trunk, and my co-host is Ronnie Rabinovitz. Ron, how are you doing tonight?
Good, Peter. How are you doing? It's good to have you.
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good to be on the
very
show
well.
again.
The weather turned real pretty and crystal clear and perfect. Just perfect baseball weather here. And
here too.
Tonight,
it's 85 degrees.
I'm excited. Oh, how is it out there? Is it still cold there?
No, it was 85 today.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good news.
I had a great time today at Target Field.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That was
you went and spoke to more youngsters.
More kids.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was great. I had a good time with them. It was a lot of
wonderful.
fun.
Do you ever get
about 130 kids?
You ever get crazy questions that you can't answer, or?
Yeah, sometimes, but not often. These kids are pretty interested. They ask a lot of good questions.
Oh, that's good. That's important.
That was great. Yeah.
Very good. You're doing a hell of a job, Ron. Educating America.
Thank you.
That's
it's
good.
fun. It's fun. Yeah.
We have a wonderful guest.
Our president now.
Oh, well, don't get me started there.
I know.
We have a wonderful guest tonight. He's no stranger to the show, thank the Lord. He's a Brooklyn Dodger historian, and he's an author in his own right. And I'm sure he's a lot of other things. Bill Hall. And how are you, Bill?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing well.
Hey.
Doing well. I just wanted
to
tell
tell
it is good to have you back. And for our listening audience, it's just the start of things. So pull up a comfortable chair. If you want to take your shoes off, go ahead, wiggle your toes. And we hope you have a cold shaver or two throughout the broadcast. Now, Bill Hall, we're going to talk tonight, I believe, about a pitcher for the old Brooklyn Dodgers. Why don't you tell us what it's going to be all about?
All about Lingle Mungo. And I think he's got an interesting story. I think you can make the case, and it's always a matter of opinion, but maybe the single greatest name in the history of Major League Baseball. And why we're talking about him tonight, all three of us are participants, and I'm one of the administrators of two Brooklyn Dodger pages on Facebook. And it just has kind of evolved almost organically, which I love. It makes it more fun and spontaneous and interesting that from time to time I've been featuring a player of the week on the pages with the idea of spotlighting some of the guys who still are important in the Brooklyn story but maybe haven't been featured as much as some guys we know well, especially Ronnie, named Robinson or Campanella or Snyder or Hodges, but other guys who were, or Reese, of course, but, and somebody said to me in a Facebook conversation, how about a Lingle Mungo week? And I said, oh, that's fun. And I think I rose to the challenge, found a lot of entertaining pictures, stories, and links, and so we spent a whole week on the two pages celebrating Lingle Mungo.
Cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Lingle Mungo?
Okay. Well, not only just a great name, but a great fastball. He was born in Pageland, South Carolina in 1911, and he passed away there in 1985 at the age of 73. In his Major League career, he didn't have that impressive of a one-loss record, 120 wins, 115 losses. But unfortunately, that reflects the fact that I think that the Dodger teams he played on in the 30s, and then after leaving the Dodgers, he finished out with the New York Giants. He mostly played on second division teams, yet he managed 1,242 strikeouts on his career, led the league in 1936, And he was a 3-time National League All-Star, 1934, 36, 37. So those are, I think, some of the key facts and numbers about Van Lingle Mungo, but I think, just the stories are, the legend. That's what makes it fun. And the song. Right. I don't know if you want to talk now or later about the song, but that I think has made him as much of a legend in our generation as anything else.
Well, I was going to ask you to sing the song.
Well, no, I would respectfully decline, my friend, because I want people to keep listening to the program. Can I got to share with you a personal anecdote. One day, a friend of mine was standing next to me in church and whispered to me, "Bill, do you think you could sing a little softer? I think you're throwing off the organist."
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, I've got to say I'm tone deaf, but 1969, a jazz composer and pianist and singer named Dave Frischberg, who is still with us today in his 80s. He wrote a song called Van Lingle Mungo, and it's entirely made up of the names of players from that era, and it's a classic, wouldn't you guys agree?
I do.
I would say so. Yeah, absolutely.
I played it today. It was fun.
Yeah, it just evokes a whole different era in baseball. When there were only 16 teams and none of them west of St. Louis, and players traveled by train, that players came out of the little American small towns. It seems like, now baseball is an international sport, which I think is wonderful in so many ways, and there's a whole level of diversity that you wouldn't have thought, even imagined in Van Lingle Mungo's era. But, of course, it was before Jackie Robinson made history with the Dodgers, but maybe that perhaps explains why, in part, I'm wondering why baseball had such a hold on America in the early part of the 20th century, that there was truly the belief, of course, the unspoken, sad and terrible thing was that as long as you were white, any small-town kid could go from the sandlots of their little town to Major League stardom.
Sure. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, was that his real name?
Yes, that was his given name. Yeah, it almost sounds like a stage name or
a nickname
or a nickname.
Something, right?
Yep. Let's see. He never won 20 games in a season. His career best was 18 two seasons, but he kind of blazed in right at the start as a rookie. Through 9 innings against the Boston Braves, struck out 12.
Wow.
So, what was it? At one point, he said he would have been able to win more games if he didn't feel like he had to strike out every batter, and he felt like he had to strike them all out because he didn't have much faith in his teammates' fielding abilities. And
yes,
you guys,
Van Lingle Mungo is known for not being bashful about calling out his teammates and their lack of prowess with the leather.
Yeah, think of some of those 1930s Dodgers. Billy Herman and some of the others. They were not celebrated glovemen for the most part.
No, they sure weren't. He
gave up. He was winning a game. I read a story the other day about Mungo. He was winning a game in the 9th inning. He was winning a game in the 9th inning. I forget against who. I think he was winning 1-0. And a guy got on a walk or something like that. Then another guy got on an error. And then a guy he struck 2 guys out. And he was 1 strike away from winning the game and winning it 1-0 when he let up. He threw a different pitch than a fastball. He let up on him, and the guy hit a cracked bat little liner right to the left fielder. And I can't for the life of me remember who the left fielder was, but it went right into the pocket of the guy's glove for the third out and the victory, and dropped right down to his feet. And of course, with 2 strikes and 2 outs, both runners were running, and he lost the game 2-1. After the game, Van Lingle Mungo in the clubhouse sends a telegram to his wife, and he calls it out loud for the whole rest of the team to hear. He sends the telegram to his wife, and I'll just pretend her name is Betsy. He says, Betsy, come to Brooklyn immediately. If our left fielder can play Major League Baseball, so can you.
Yep, Tom Winsett. That's the name, Tom Winsett. Yeah.
Oh, really? Tom Winsett?
Yep, he's the one who botched that fly ball.
Okay.
And I think one of the other absolute classic Mungo stories about his drinking and fighting, manager Casey Stengel saying to the press, Mungo and I get along just fine. I won't stand for no nonsense, and then I duck.
That's Casey.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got an observation, but guys, I know you're both again looking at the Facebook pages. It seemed like almost every picture I found and posted of Mungo, and a few other people shared pictures too, in most of them he looks very disinterested, almost bored. In a few, he's almost got this sly little grin on his face, but you get the feeling he's the kind of guy that the temper, it must have flared up and then flared down very quickly because, there don't seem to be any portraits of him looking fierce or angry or, no Bob Gibson, Don Drysdale stare of death. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. How many years did he play?
Okay, let's see. He came up in 31, was with the Dodgers until 41, went to the Giants in 42, and lasted through 1945. Probably wouldn't have stuck around as long as he did, except the ranks of the major leagues were so depleted during the war years.
Depleted because of the war, sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Although, again, the lessened competition in 1945, it's, I think it's kind of ironic looking at his stats that he had just been kind of hanging on for about 3 years with the Giants and, winning like 3-4 games a year. And then boom, all of a sudden in 1945, he has his best season in years, winning 14 games. And yet that wasn't enough to get him a job in 46 once the regulars were back.
There you go.
So instead, he went home to Pageland, and, in all the reading I did about him, I never really found much about his attitude on race. I wouldn't have expected him to be particularly progressive, being a man born in the South in the early part of the 20th century, and of course, he was gone from the game before it was integrated. But one interesting anecdote that I don't know if I put this in the glass half full category or what, but he bought the local movie theater after he retired and ran it. And until he bought it, black people were not allowed in the theater, period. He added a balcony. And the balcony, after that, then blacks could buy a ticket for a seat in the balcony. So I guess that kind of mirrors the state of race relations in America in the pre-Jackie Robinson, Brown versus Board of Education era.
Right, right, for sure. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so do you look at that, and of course not being able to talk to the man or know anybody was there, I kind of scratch my head and I say, was he at least trying to open the door so the black community would have something to do for entertainment, or was it just kind of a mercenary dollars and cents kind of decision?
Yeah, it could have been either way.
Yeah,
that's
maybe
true.
A little of both.
Yeah,
I like to think of it as in the good way.
Yeah,
I like to think of it that way. And since there's no one around to prove that it wasn't, let's keep a good
right.
thought.
Yeah, give him the benefit of the doubt. And in addition to fighting and drinking, he apparently also, had a wandering eye, as many ball players have shown through the years. And another classic story, it comes from, I'm not sure which year, but, it was originally Larry McPhail who started having the Dodgers train in Cuba for spring training for a couple of years there, late 30s, early 40s, and then after the war, that before Dodger Town was developed, that Branch Rickey came up with the idea of taking the team there again to get away from American prejudice once Jackie Robinson was on board. But apparently Mungo took up with a married woman during one of those spring trainings. And Mungo was confronted in the Dodgers hotel by the husband, punched him in the eye. This guy went after Mungo with a butcher knife or machete, and Babe Hamburger, the longtime clubhouse man, ended up having to put Mungo in a laundry cart, cover him up with laundry. So I'm imagining it's old dirty Dodger wool uniforms to take him. This is true, to a seaplane that was waiting for him on a wharf to smuggle him out of the country. They decided they had to do that to save his life.
That's a classic story. I have read that story before.
Really
That's classic. That is
That's
classic.
very classic.
He was buried underneath all the old jock straps and sweatshirts and what have you to sneak out of the hotel. That's great. That is a classic story.
Great. That is so good. It saved his life.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. Well, if we have exhausted Van Lingle Mungo, I cannot let you go, Bill Hall, without asking you some general questions about your next book and the plans for same.
Sure.
And your plans for same, and perhaps you can just, if you would be so kind as to just whatever you want to tell us. We don't want to spoil it. We don't want to ask you anything that you don't want to tell, or, we just let you. Can you generally tell our audience, if they haven't heard you on the air with us before, what your plan is for this upcoming book?
I'm happy to do that. It is, the working title is Ebbets Field Forever. Pardon me. Been fighting a nasty hay fever attack today.
Okay.
And it is a novel of alternate history. Usually alternate history looks at what if the Nazis had won World War II? What if JFK hadn't been assassinated? But this will be a baseball saga, although there will be a strong political undercurrent to it as well. Taking off from a real interview that Walter O'Malley gave, in which he talked about the fact that when the Dodger ownership situation was in flux in 1950, Joseph Kennedy Sr. Made some inquiries. He was interested in buying into the Dodger ownership. So in my alternate history, that actually happens, and things take a very different course, and the Dodgers end up never leaving Brooklyn. And it sets off a whole series of dominoes, not only in the baseball landscape, but the political landscape. And, well, I try to use reality as an inspiration. even though it would be fun in some ways, I think it might be boring reading if everybody just lives happily ever after and the Dodgers turn into a National League version of the Yankees winning year after year. So you'll see in the finished product, I think, a reflection of the story we know, but almost everybody's careers and lives taking turns that are in at least somewhat better and in some cases substantially better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine following the reign of Bert Schotten, which continues a few years beyond what it really did in reality. Instead of bringing up a guy from the minor leagues named Alston to manage the team, what if one of the boys of summer became player manager? What if another member of the boys of summer became the general manager of the team once Branch Rickey was ready to finally hang it up? And it'll be fun, I think. I think
sounds like
people,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, people, although my first published book is a novel about an Oregon governor, Tom McCall, a really colorful and dynamic guy who talked about running for president as an independent in 1976. And so in this novel, I imagine a path in which Tom McCall actually does become president of the United States, and it's sold several hundred copies in Oregon and gotten a nice little moderate buzz. But one of my friends, who is the librarian at our local high school, I ran into her and she said, "Oh, Bill, I read your book." I said, and then she added, "I was depressed for days after I finished it." And I said, "Oh, Liz, was it really that bad?" And she said, No, it's just that I wanted it so much to be true, and that's the only thing that when you finish reading this story, that might be the wistfulness of it. Why couldn't it have happened for real? But I think it's fun to just, and the book and the story, I've got the bookends for the beginning and the end of it, a 25-year period. Opening day, 1947, Jackie Robinson still arriving in the big leagues, but a different manager in the dugout instead of to open the season. And then the closing chapter of the book will be opening day, 1972, at Ebbets Field, as the Brooklyn Dodgers get ready to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Jackie coming to the big leagues. And it just, I could have carried the story beyond that, but I've got a 15-page working outline, and it just seemed like 25 years, a nice period. A lot of careers will be winding down or reaching pivotal points then, and so look for cameos in this book from everybody from Donald Trump to Bernie Sanders to Larry King and all kinds of figures in sports, politics, popular culture, and just kind of a mirror of a different time.
Wow. Every time you talk about this book, I get wistful, and I say to myself, I wish the hell he would just write it so I can read it. You know what I'm saying? I'm so dying to read this book. And you know what? I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get the book, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to be pissed off because I read it. And I didn't want it to end, probably. And I'll probably start dreaming about what could happen after 1972. Maybe I'll pick up in my brain 1973 opening day at Ebbets Field and continue on. You know what I mean? And just, say, maybe what else could have happened? What else could happen? I mean, this is so delicious in a mind, in a baseball fan's mind, especially a Brooklyn Dodger fan who lost his team when he was in the Little League, like myself. You know what? Years ago, there was a story going around. I don't know if you guys read it, and I'm going to say it was 10 years ago. I'm going to take a guess. Okay. That's a pretty solid guess. About 10 years ago, someone was building an Ebbets Field.
Yeah.
Some millionaire Yep.
Yeah.
Some millionaire was building in Ebbets Field, either
wasn't
down
it going to be
south
like
or
in Connecticut? I'm sorry.
well, I don't know where. I forget. But there was a guy who had plans, and they were substantial. And the guy was not a kook or a nut or anything like that. And he said what he wanted to do. He wanted to build an Ebbets Field. And it sounded to me, I immediately promised myself, no matter where this field is built, I'm going to get a hotel room for like a month in the summertime. I'm going to it every single day. I'm going to go inside of it. I'm going to bring a fungo bat. I'm going to hit baseballs over the wall in right field. I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to steal home like Jackie. I'm going to make catches up against the center field wall like the Duke. I'm going to play caroms off the right field wall like Carl Ferrillo. I'm going to do all of these things. It's going to be so great. And then all of a sudden, that story faded away. It had legs, that story. It had a life of its own. And like I said, it was like 10 years ago. I first read about it. I could be wrong. I think I first read about these rumors on Baseball Fever.
Huh. I remember something similar.
Place.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the same story or a different one. This actually, I think, dated to the late 1990s. This guy had the vision of rebuilding Ebbets Field, and he was going to do it in Connecticut. He wasn't going to do the final version of the park that everybody knew, but basically use the original 1913 plans, which were, more in an L or a V shaped, redo the original double-decker stands for 25,000 people because he thought that would be plenty for a minor league ballpark, and he wanted to get a minor league team in there. And unfortunately, I've tried to research whatever happened. I assume whether his financing fell through or something went wrong. But I think, just what you were talking about there, Peter. Imagine the mecca it would be for fans.
Oh, God.
Hey, let me ask you this related to that. If either of you have ever read a novel, it was published all the way back in 1981, which to some degree explores some of these themes. It's called The Man Who Brought the Dodgers Back to Brooklyn.
You know what? It's funny It's funny you should ask that question, but I purchased that book, and I read it. I have since forgotten every word of it, and I have lost it. I don't have the book. The book I do not have anymore. I used to have it, and I like most of my Brooklyn Dodger books, whether they were novels or whether they were, because I had all the John R. Tunis books too. John R. Tunis, the kid from Hopkinsville in the World Series, and The Kid Comes Back, all of those books. He wrote about the Brooklyn Dodgers in novel form, about 10 books, 8 or 10 books. I had all of those books. I found those books on what is that place there everybody buys?
Probably a Libris or Bookfinder.
No, the other one.
Or Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon. I bought them all. I bought them all at one time. I got them for like $1 each or whatever. I got them all back, and I have them. But I cannot find, or I couldn't find, The Man Who Brought the Dodgers Back to Brooklyn. And I know that I had it. I know that I read it. I can't remember anything. Who was the author? Do you know?
David Ritz, who was also the collaborator with Ralph Branca on his memoirs.
Is that R-I-T-Z? R-I-T-Z?
Yep, as in the cracker.
Like the cracker. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, because, it was published in 81. It's set in the late 80s, and there's some things that are, a little on the fantastic side in it. I mean, that the first female pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Okay.
But, it's about the friendship of two kids from Brooklyn, one who almost became a Major League catcher and the other who became a multimillionaire. And in 1987, the rich guy buys the Los Angeles franchise from Peter O'Malley and gets the permission of, well, he runs it in Los Angeles for 1.5 years, but then he gets permission from the National League to move it back to Brooklyn. And then, you know, he buys Ebbets Field Apartments, relocates all the tenants, blows up Ebbets Field Apartments, and rebuilds Ebbets Field on the spot. And, you know, one of the things, I've got this crazy retentive memory, and one of the wonderful things, to me, one of the great set pieces in the book is when he unveils the picture of the new Ebbets Field and has the National League owners spellbound, saying something like, "What Branch Rickey said in the 1930s will still be true in the 1990s. You could turn on the lights in the middle of the night at Ebbets Field and 30,000 people would show up just to find out what was going on." There's
right.
still
That's true.
500,000 people living within walking distance of this ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think he stretches credulity a little bit, but what the heck, it's fantasy. I mean, those Dodgers need a new catcher and a new second baseman, and so, of course, the young players that they sign up turn out to be almost clones of Campy and Jackie, but what the heck, when you're fantasizing. But my story, I'm trying to keep it firmly grounded in reality, that you'll read it and say, well, yeah, this could have happened. You know, there's no aliens who show up and kidnap Walter O'Malley, no time traveler who comes back to, you know, as satisfying as that might be, with a gun with two bullets.
It's all pretty realistic.
Yeah. It's, I mean, like, the opening day pitcher in 1972 is going to be a certain Brooklyn native who, in reality, hung it up 6 years earlier with the Dodgers. And what inspired that was a interview I came across with Dr. Frank Jobe, who said, gee, he wished he would have thought up the surgery 10 years sooner, and the nerve transplant. He said, hey, are you still there, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know what that was, if you heard it, but anyway, some noise, you know, he said, we've called it Sandy Koufax surgery.
Instead of Tommy John, right?
Yeah. I met both Tommy John and Frank Jobe.
Did you?
At Dodger Stadium. Yeah, it was very exciting.
Wow. When was that?
This was a few years back. Yeah, when I was down there, I was on the field for opening before batting practice, during batting practice. I was on. Mark Langell actually took me down there.
That's cool.
We had a good time. It was nice to meet him.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
So, two really nice guys and unassuming, but yet great achievement. I mean, Tommy John, if not for his arm going out, probably would have been a 300-game winner. And
absolutely.
Again, then Dr. Jobe, and still came very close. And then Dr. Jobe, every time I've seen videos of interviews with him, modest and unassuming and yet absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant, yeah, exactly. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, he was really something. What he came up with there.
That looks like another show, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Any addendum?
Wonderful.
Any PSs or bibliography we have to, before we say goodnight? I mean, do we have one more Van Lingle Mungo story or a quote or whatever? What kind of scotch did he drink?
I should know that. But, what was his drink of choice? I don't know. I don't know that. Here, let me pull up. I was about to pull up his New York Times obituary, if there was any really good anecdotes in there that we haven't come across yet.
Was he married?
Yeah, he was. Remember the telegram to his wife saying, come play left field?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he once tied a Major League record, striking out 7 batters in a row.
There you go.
Let's see. Yeah, it was, the 1937 All-Star Game. This is something that just occurred to me. Terrible game for National League pitchers. That's the one where Dizzy Dean took the line drive that broke his toe and basically ruined his pitching blew out his shoulder. And Mungo hurt his arm and was never really the same in that same game, was really never the same after that. Finally had it operated on in 1940 and really didn't come around until that very last year in 45 that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, his wife's name was Eloise, and he had two sons, Van Jr. and Ernest. So there's still presumably a Van Lingle Mungo walking around today.
How do you like that?
Yeah.
Maybe you could take him up and we could have him on the show.
Yeah, we'll get him on the show.
Yeah, what's it like to be Van Lingle Mungo's son? Yeah, one other thing we should have mentioned about him, that Dave Frischberg, the writer of the song, he and Mungo met because Dick Cavett got the idea to have Dave Frischberg on his show and sing the song to Van Lingle Mungo, which he did. And afterwards, Mungo asked Frischberg, well, do I get any money for you using my name? And he said, sorry, but that's not the way these things work.
Yeah. He wanted some remuneration. It's ironic. It's ironic that you bring that up because I read that today myself, and I smiled broadly because I still say that you sound, Bill, exactly like Dick Cavett. Now I don't know.
Yeah, and after you said that, I went back.
I don't know if you went to YouTube and played some Dick Cavett shows. Did you play him for your wife?
Unbelievable. Yep.
She agreed, and I agreed.
There you go. You sound just like him.
You do.
I appreciate the compliment.
Well, I don't know if it's a compliment. I think it's a compliment, but I mean, you just happen to sound exactly like him. I mean, when I got off the phone, after I spoke with you for the first time, and I got off the phone, I told my wife, Linda, I said, I think I just spoke to Dick Cavett. She said, what are you talking about? I said, this guy, Bill Hall, he claims his name is Bill Hall, but he sounds exactly like Dick Cavett.
Yeah, you do.
It really does. She said, the next time you have him on the phone, I want to hear it. But I never did it. But it's astounding. It really is. It really is.
It's astounding. It really is.
You don't sound a little bit like him. You sound like you're doing an impression. You sound like you're doing, you know how Kevin Spacey does an impression of Christopher Walken, and it's right on the money?
Yeah.
And it's frightening. It's so right on the money. Your impression of Dick Cavett, even though you're not trying to do it, is right on the money. It's right on the money.
I agree.
You even have the cadence. You even have the speech cadence that Dick Cavett had in his halcyon days.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's right.
It really is.
Right.
Super. Well, thank you guys.
Well, this has been fun. Bill, it's been fun. Peter, it's
Thank you
fun.
for coming on the show. And I'm sure I speak for Ronnie when I say you're invited on any time you want to come on. All you got to do is message one of us or both of us and say, listen, I got an idea. I want to come on. I want to talk about Joe Black, or I want to talk about Leo DeRocher, or whatever the heck it is.
Right.
And you have a date. You have a date.
Okay. That is. Yeah. I'll think about show-worthy topics, and this is the most fun I've had in a long time.
Well, it is fun for all of us.
I don't get out much, but no, you guys are great.
Now that's what Dick Cavett would have said too. Dick Cavett had the same jokes, had the same self-effacing demeanor. I mean, it's uncanny. It really is. Anyway, before I go off the deep end, to all our listeners, thanks for listening as always, and we'll see you next week with another Brooklyn Dodger, Los Angeles Dodger, Tale of Two Cities show. I thank my co-host, Ronnie Rabinovitz, and I thank my guest, Bill Hall. And to both of you, I say good night.
Good night.
Good night.